أنا أخوكم بني السرطان والله العلي العظيم أقسم بالله العلي العظيم.
Friend of the show, Tommy Robinson, has now made it to the United States of America. The United States of America. After receiving a fatwa on his life in the UK, he has gone to the land of the free, where he can actually be free and hopefully protect himself and his family. And hopefully the USA takes very good care of him. And one of the first things he did was go on Tim Pool's show, a show that I really love and watch regularly. So let's take a look at that. I'm Tal the Traveling Clad, your sweet Zionist Prince, White Colonizer. If you want to be a white colonizer just like me, get the merch down below in the description of thetravelingclad.com. And let's get this clip.
Luton is a very diverse town. Line up all my friends, we're all sons of immigrants, yeah? But no one votes in the military fashion that the Islamic community do.
Right.
So there's 45 mosques, and there's the council of mosques. So the leader of the council of the mosques, so all the mosques, even though they hate each other, met some of them, they come together with one leader of the council of mosques. He sits down with the government, and he does a deal for the vote. They get 50,000 votes. And literally, when their mosque tells them who to vote, they vote.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Are you familiar with the revolution in Egypt and how it went down? There were two revolutions.
With the Muslim Brotherhood?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a really fascinating story, so I'll give you the quick version, because I do want you to talk more and tell us all about what's going on in the UK. But they had the first revolution, and it was, I believe, Mubarak gets removed. They had 30 years of military leadership. What happened was you had 7 or 8 secular factions and the Muslim Brotherhood. The problem is all the secular factions were in light disagreement with each other, but they wouldn't line up to vote for one cause. So the Muslim Brotherhood won the election with around 20% of the vote of Egypt. Well, that's a recipe for disaster, because 80% of the country opposes the Muslim Brotherhood. Didn't matter. When the Muslim Brotherhood said, you vote for our guy, you vote for our guy, so they always were unified. So they win, and you got Morsi in power, who legitimately won the election, and the second revolution happens. Because all of these people were like, no, we don't want the Muslim Brotherhood to take over. The issue is that most people were decentralized, but the Muslim Brotherhood was organized. And the end result for Egypt, to deal with the problem of the fact that no matter what they did, the Muslim Brotherhood would always win the elections, because when they say vote, the people say yes. So they went and started gunning them down. That was the end result. I don't think anybody wants that to be what happens, but you can take a look at Egypt, what happens when a majority of the population opposes the ideologically driven unified faction. It comes to violence. That's a scary reality when we're watching this degree or what you're describing in the UK.
My warning is that they'll use democracy to end democracy.
Yeah.
Which is what we're witnessing. We're witnessing it.
Charlie Kirk said that Islam is the sword that the left will use to slice through the West.
Yeah, that was his words. And that was pretty much just before he died, before he was murdered. But they, I just don't know if Americans understand the power of that small community when they get organised. And when I say the power, Republicans will bow to them, Democrats will bow to them.
Indeed.
If they're in the swing states, they're all going to bow to them. If they can guarantee the vote, if they can give them the guaranteed vote in that town and and that's what we've seen. And is it MEND? There's an extremist organisation in the UK, an Islamist extremist organisation in the UK. And one of the speeches from a mosque, I went through the transcripts of what he was saying, and he said that it doesn't matter if they call us jihadists or extremists, right? Liberals, Labour and Conservatives will all work with us. We now swing the seat in 15 seats. Wow. They need us. Yeah. Now that was 5-10 years ago. If you look at what's happened now with the division in British politics, it's come down to, we've just had 5 jihadists, independents. Labour have lost the Muslim vote, it looks like, and it's fragmenting because Labour didn't hate the Jews enough. Labour didn't hate the Jews enough, so the Muslims now they're all calling themselves Greens and screaming Al Akbar when they're winning elections. But my warning to America is simply they will organise themselves in a military fashion if they concentrate, and that's what Joe Biden's done. And what they've done is they replaced the working class. So the Labour Party replaced the working class with the loyal, happy to be dependent on the state Islamic community. They're happy. My local imam's got 14 kids and 3 wives, and he doesn't work a day, and we pay for every penny of it. And they're happy. It's a halal life. It's a halal life. They go to the mosque 5 times a day. They live their life. We're paying for all of it. Yeah? And the rates, if you look at the rates of what works and what doesn't work, I can give you the stats for every country in Europe. This does not work. They are importing people who do not work. Yeah, they're not here to work. Like, they're on benefits. You've seen, and I think you've just had an amazing wake up. Nick Shirley, well done, son. Yeah. You have had the wake up very quickly.
Shout out Nick Shirley.
And when you look at the numbers of how many Somalis come into the country and 10 years later can't speak English, you look at the numbers of how many of them are reliant on the state, their kids will be reliant on the state. Studies have now been done in Holland that show not just is the first migration reliant on the state, the second, third migration are reliant on the state.
Really?
So
it's
they're not
endemic.
working.
It's
endemic. They're not going to work. Yeah, they're not here to work. They're not here to assimilate or integrate. They're here to dominate.
Yep.
And that's not every Muslim, yeah. But the per se, you have to look at the broad numbers, and I'll give you some numbers. Yeah? In the UK, Muslim men make up 3% of the population. They're responsible for 90% of the convictions for rape gangs. 90% from a 3% population. Now, 30% of the men convicted are called Mohammed. If you go to Sweden, 63% of the rapes, Muslim migrants. There's about 15% Muslim population, but 63% of the rapes. Paris, 77% of the rapes are Muslim migrants. Austria, 48% of the rapes are Muslim migrants. Germany, 58% of the rapes are Muslim migrants. Now,
go ahead, finish.
all these things, so migration and immigration is meant to benefit the nation. So if we look in Germany, since Angela Merkel, I just said 58% of the rapes are foreign national Muslim migrants. 11% of the rapes in that country last year were by Syrian nationals. They're from Syria. Their passports from Syria. They're born in Syria. They've been brought into the country, we're told, Germans are told, for diversity. It's not for diversity. You opened your borders, you let 1 million men in, you didn't know who they were. Just look at the rape statistics that have gone up from 2017 to 2022. The rapes have gone up 45% in Germany. In the UK, 2023 to 2023, our rapes went from 8,800 to 88,000. In 88,000 rapes, and that's gone
from 8,000 to
8,000
88,000.
88,000. Now you take that same statistic and go another 20 years, you're talking 1 million rapes, 880,000 rapes, and nothing's going to stop it. Nothing's stopping it. They're not stopping it. The men that are coming in are hostile. An Afghani is 22 times more likely to commit a sexual assault and rape in Britain than any other nationality, than British nationality. Why are they coming in? If migration is meant to benefit, how have the Somali community benefited? How have they benefited coming into America? It's meant to benefit the nation. They benefit the Democrats.
The Somalis have benefited tremendously.
They have, and the money goes to Somalia and probably goes back to the Democrat Party.
My question was: are these rapes resulting in pregnancies?
Are they resulting in pregnancies? They're resulting in in
abortions.
So I've got three best friends I grew up with who are all their mums are the white girls who were the sexual slave of the Pakistani. That's three of my mates. So they're half Pakistani, don't see their dads. They were babies from rape. That's three of my mates growing up.
This is an extremely, extremely well-known and common warfare tactic is rape. Literally, rape, the origin of the word rape and pillage was, I believe it was the Vikings would come, destroy the village, and then take the women. And the word rape comes originally meant to steal. But now it means to force yourself on a woman because that's what was happening in conquest.
Well, the thing is, though, in Islam, if you're a Muslim man and you rape a woman who is not Muslim, that's not considered a crime. That's not considered rape.
No,
those girls are just looked down upon, so they don't care about those girls at all.
To this point, the Independent was just put out an article that said the Taliban has a new penal code that puts husbands on par with slave masters and legalizes domestic violence.
Right. Yeah, I was looking at that this morning. That's a crazy.
Let me get this article for you guys. It's from the Independent. New Taliban penal code puts husbands on par with slave masters and legalizes domestic violence. A Kabul-based legal advisor says it's now impossible for women to get any justice in the Taliban-run courts.
But that's because the Taliban-run courts are based on the Quran and the Islamic teachings, and the Quran says quite clearly, if your wife disobeys you, sit down and talk to her. If that doesn't work, you give her no sex in the bedroom. If that doesn't work, you beat her.
So,
right.
So real quick, what you're saying is we have a choice between feminism and Islam.
But the feminists are on the Islam side. What's going on?
And what's going on? It's worth noting that the left will lose to the
they did in
Muslims. You know,
they did in Iran, but they don't care. They want to bring down the system.
Maybe the offensive thought is women are tired of these, and I mean this in the political sense, not tribal. Women are tired of these weak, effeminate, liberal guys. And so a Muslim guy comes in, and he's like Myron Gaines, and he's like, shut up, I don't care. Do what you're told. And the women are just like, okay.
I think there's something a little different to it than that. I think that the feminist left in the West never believes that they're going to be impacted by anything negative that's going to happen. Look at Renee Good. She thought she was protected from police violence by her whiteness. She didn't think that anything bad could happen to her. And I think when you think about leftist Western feminists, they think, okay, we're going to open up everything to all of these Muslims because we're compassionate. And it doesn't occur to them that anything bad is going to happen to them because of it. And they also like to say, that having a woman in burqas, in hijabs and niqabs and the rest of it, they say that's their cultural thing. Let them be part of their cultural thing. But they don't actually think that anything is going to happen to themselves.
The only real feminists in our generation are the Persian women in Iran. They're the only real women.
They're like Kelly J. Keane.
The only people
who's
who,
great.
Kelly,
Absolutely.
but what I mean is the only people in our generation who have stood up for women's rights are the ones taking off their hijab and getting killed.
Well, and they're the ones who are saying, hey, Western women, where are you? Why aren't you helping us?
100% true. Tommy Robinson's absolutely accurate about that. The only real feminists in this generation, like actual feminists that are fighting for real feminism, real equality, are the women in Iran who are being killed over it, who actually care about feminism, real feminism. It's the people of Iran. Absolutely, 100%.
Sir Samuel says, how can Europe wake up to the Islam problem? I don't think the elites will do anything, so how do the masses wake up?
They're waking up. If you look through the voting patterns, of each nation, they're waking up. The people are awake. Fastest growing political parties, whether it be the AFD, Vox in Spain. Now, to combat Vox in Spain, the leaders now recognising 1 million migrants, they're worried, they're scared. All the fastest growing political parties, the future of Europe, the future leaders of Europe, it's not Macron, it's not weakness, it's men, it's strength. That's the future. The future has borders, the future is nationalism. That's the future. Now they're trying to withhold it, they're trying to stop it, they keep doing it in France, they're banning Le Pen, but Badella is going to be probably more successful. Europe's wakening. Now our plan, again, which we're hoping for, May 16th is Unite the Kingdom. September 12th, we hope to unite the West. We want to do what we're doing in London. I went and met Salvini in Rome. I went and met Eric Zemmour in France. I've spoke to Belgian political parties. I've spoke to Dutch. We want to have a day of unity across Europe to celebrate European culture and identity, because mass immigration is destroying it. And our vision is to see mass cultural celebrations in every European capital city by the European people coming out and saying, listen, let the world know. The world heard us on September 13th. The world will hear the roar from London on May 16th to tell the world that our government are betraying us. We've had enough.
In addition to that, I want to steel man Islam and the values of Islam, because some of it actually is pretty cool. Fasting, it has tenets of pillars, but that whole organization of faith has been seemingly co-opted by the caliphate for 1,300 years. I can't tell. So the grotesque extremism, when you steel man it, then you can see the aspects of it that are wrong or that are bad. And that's what you can fight against. You don't have to just vaguely, insult 3 billion people, because they're Muslim.
What I say, they say about Islamism now, does everyone agree Islamism is wrong?
Islamism is different. Yeah, what is Islamism exactly?
Well, this is what people say is political Islam. But then I'd ask the question as, okay, was the Prophet Muhammad an Islamist? So all our political...
No, I brought this up before the show.
He was. He enforced Islam with violence.
Yeah, but I have a feeling, I don't know if it's true, that the caliphate came along and they're like, hey, good religion. It would be a shame if somebody co-opted it, and they took it and they used it for political power, just like the Vatican and the Catholics did with Christianity. When they came along, they formed a business around it.
But there's also
Muhammad was a barbarian, warmonger, and paedophile, bro.
Yeah, there's actual writings that explain.
Yeah, he was from a wartime, but the problem is they don't recognise he's from a wartime. So the difference is, so Muhammad married a 6-year-old, had sex with her when she was 9. They still believe he was perfect, and it's like, don't you recognise that's not?
For his time, he was doing what he had to do.
Hold on.
Today, it doesn't make sense.
Okay. But they don't accept today's any different. He's perfect then, he's perfect now. So the laws of today have to be what he done. So that's sex with kids.
What's this electronic travel authorization requirement that's beginning on the 25th in the UK? I'm looking up, because I was looking up, should I get a J visa for going to the UK? Typically, the UK, I've been to London dozens of times because in my work, you don't need anything. It's the UK. It's like you show up and like, what are you here for? It's like, I work for a media company. I'm doing journalism. They say, yeah, we don't care. Like, stamp, welcome to the country. Considering where we are now, I was like, maybe it would be safer if I did get one. But it says, when I looked it up, Americans don't need anything, but starting on February 25th, we have to apply online for approval. So it's not really a visa. It's just you have to go to a website, pay £16, and say, here's my travel date. And they say, okay, we'll see you then. So I was not familiar with this. I wonder. We'll see. I'll apply. I'll plan to be there.
Great, Tim.
Yeah,
we'll host you. Because what we done again, we done it last time. We put on a dinner night for all the citizen journalists. We give them access. So say we had politicians from 6, 7, 8 nations in Europe who all leaders of parties who come to speak, as well as influencers from across Europe as well, and from Britain. But we give the VIP treatment. Anyone you want to interview, we set the interview stage up for all of the new media. Yeah, none of the. I remember the Daily Mail emailed me like, "Can we have a pass?" I'm just fuck off. Right.
And you were just like, no,
you
get
can't.
A pass.
No, you can't. And then they run their headline, which I pulled up their headline live, and they run their headline, "Football Hooligans take to the streets of the UK." I said, now the problem they've got when they run this headline, it's been shared by how many people? Hardly anyone, yeah? We've got 800,000 people watching live. They don't realise it yet. You've lost, guys, yeah?
True.
That where we're at now, thanks to Elon Musk, thanks to the new media, thanks to the ability of bringing all these people together, thanks to, for example, Tim, if you come, what you're going to show, 2 million, 3 million followers on one social media, you're going to show the world what's happening in London. It doesn't matter what the Daily Mail said. It doesn't matter what the BBC say. We've gone past them. They're irrelevant. No one trusts them. No one believes them. No one believes in them. You have a passionate base here who believe in you. You have Discord. You have these communities. The mainstream media don't have this. And you see the left wing trying to do these podcasts now. It's like you're trying. No one. You can't do it because you can't tell the truth.
And it doesn't work.
Because what you're saying is not truthful. Your argument's not truthful. So yeah, I think that.
I want to pause for just a moment. I have seen actually like kind of a. There's a little bit more to go here, so don't leave just yet. The way I have seen like kind of a rise in left wing podcasts coming out recently, but they never succeed to the same way that either conservative or like sort of middle of the road podcast will, because they just can't talk about anything for long enough. And if you ask them tough questions, they can't. Like left wing ideology, communism, Islamism falls apart. It breaks apart at a couple simple questions. All of them. So Tommy's 100% right about this.
The real battle here is with the new media.
Yeah. I'm at gov.uk, and Americans now require an electronic travel authorization. It's pretty crazy.
They said that they did that. Some countries did that, like Canada and others. They said that they started doing that because of the restrictions Trump put on people coming into the U.S.
Yep.
So it really just seems to be like a bit of backlash against Trump. Which
They want me to download their app.
I never want to download an app.
High tech. Yeah.
Canada made you download an app if you wanted to get into Canada during COVID, and they made you like fill out all this stuff on your phone. It was pretty egregious.
This is the technocracy that seems inevitable. I'm so like
It does seem really inevitable, and it's
This was
crazy
the
how
future
it's
they
like
want, yeah.
nobody wants it, but it's pressing down anyway.
nations. You said nationalism is like the future, but nations are being stripped apart with internet and mass lightning speed communication and money transfer. I don't even think nationalism has a place on Earth anymore, as far as I can tell.
That's silly.
Unless electricity goes out.
No,
When I say
that's
national-
silly.
when I
That's
say
silly
national-
because
when I say national, people are reverting back to national identity because they're feeling under attack. It's like in Britain, what the European Union wanted was everyone being European. Yeah, well, we're not European.
But Ian, you can make the argument like we're all American, but there's still Texas and there's still New York,
Yeah, that's
and
true,
there are
too.
distinct things about it, and there are different laws. And I, for instance, say I would like to live in West Virginia because our laws are better. So the idea that there's no nations would be silly, because even at the county level, people say I don't want to live in Cook County because they raise their taxes. I want to move to DuPage. So the borders all still exist. The laws are all still different, and that was always okay. And it is creepy to me that there has been this effort for a long time to eliminate all. Let's just describe it as a preference for way of living. That's an impossibility. The global homogenization people, these World Economic Forum Davos people, are like, everything should be uniform. Well, what happens? Okay, take a look at Maryland. You've got Western Maryland, where it's more like West Virginia, somewhat mountainous, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and you've got wild animals, so you want a gun. And then Baltimore says, now we're voting so that you can't have guns. That's the stupidest thing imaginable. The law in Baltimore restricting guns, hey, maybe that makes sense if you live in Baltimore, but it doesn't make sense for people who live in the mountains. This idea that we would create a world where we should ban guns because they're problems in cities, but then some dude who lives in rural Wyoming is like, now I can't have a gun? That makes no sense. There's not even any people to go shoot. So the purpose of nations on the grand scheme of things is, maybe I don't want to live in a country where women aren't allowed to drive. Maybe I would prefer it if my wife could go to the grocery store on her own without having a chaperone. I should be able to live that way.
Yeah, it's better than trying to force every country to have the same law. It's better to
Right.
have different laws.
And we can be at peace.
Even if we can be at peace, but it's challenging. But peaceful slavery would be probably worse than chaotic freedom.
There's a line in which we tolerate and don't tolerate certain behaviors from certain countries. And I accept the argument that maybe there can be some kind of baseline of slavery shouldn't be allowed, you know. But if you want to live in a country where people are doing drugs like crazy, then good. You go live there, and we'll live in our country where we say don't do drugs.
The other thing too is it becomes so apparent that the goal of mass migration has nothing to do with giving people from crappy countries a better life, because they come from the crappy countries where they're like, oh, we don't want to live here anymore. Now we're going to turn your country into the crappy country we just came from. I saw this thing it was like a viral clip, and I couldn't track down if it was real or not, or like something that was staged, but it was basically this lady cop in the UK talking to like a group of like 20 Muslim guys who were like, there's a guy, you
Preaching
know,
Christianity.
yeah,
no, that's not fake.
that was real.
Saying this is a Muslim area. He shouldn't be doing that. Get rid of him.
Yep.
Right. And they were like, he shouldn't be talking here because we live here. And she's like, no, that's legal. You're allowed to preach. You can preach too if you want. That's the beauty of the thing.
Listen, the Islamization of Europe is going to be a massive problem. And I was just talking about this yesterday. I can't even believe that I'm sharing this with you guys, but Dominic Tarczynski, I followed him on Instagram yesterday. He followed me back, which is the fucking craziest thing ever. So we're going to work on trying to do some collaborations with him. And also this Italian guy I was talking to you guys about, Luca. I think that Israelis, like me, showing solidarity with the Europeans who want Europe to be European is very important. Also working with the Arabs who want the Arab nations to be Arab, showing solidarity with them, uplifting them. It's important for us Israelis to posture ourselves with the people who want their indigeneity to be true and real, and not to a bunch of fakers and posers. And I think that Tommy Robinson is one of the greats in that space. He really is. He's an incredible human being in that space. And I'm so proud of everything he's doing. And I can't wait to see what he does with Unite the Kingdom in the near future. Hopefully that is a great, great, massive success. And it'll be very cool to see Tim Pool covering it. And I just think this is a collaboration of, a great collaboration for the beginning of this year. Like Tim Pool and Tommy Robinson. Well, I don't agree with both of them on everything, especially not with Tim Pool. There's a lot of stuff I disagree with Tim Pool about. Two great minds, two people who I really trust to get information from, who I know are not bullshitting me or being paid by foreign governments to speak about stuff. Except for Tommy Robinson. We all know he got his $7,000 check. That's a joke, by the way. But yeah, these are two people I really trust to get my information from. I love to see them collaborate together. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
انا اخوكم بني السلطان والله العلي العظيم اقسم بالله العلي العظيم وهذول اطفالي يا اخوان.
It's pathetic, guys. It's pathetic, and it's working on millions of people. When did the Gazans become Asian?
سببكم كله بسبب خذلانكم وسكوتكم وتآمركم.
خذلانكم بجوعنا بجوع اطفالنا خذلانكم في.
Of course, hunger of your children, because you guys are eating all the food. Look at your friend. He absorbed an entire restaurant into him. What in the world is this? Hi guys, this is Sahar TV, and welcome to another episode of Exposing the Pollywood going on in Gaza. What is Pollywood, you're asking? Pollywood is faking videos and images to get to the world's attention, to get to people's emotional side, and we are going to see it today to expose it a little bit more. So let's get started. This first video is from Gaza, February 17th, a few days ago. Let's take a look. Let's see if people are starving, if there's no supply, if they have nothing to shop. Let's go.
Halkının Ramazan'ı karşılamak için yaptığı hazırlıkları göstereceğim.
Wow, would you look at that? They have pickles, they have carrots, wine. Just kidding, not wine, they're Muslim. Look at that. Quite fancy for a place that was just experiencing genocide, don't you think? Look at the bottom, it says February 17th. That's when this video was posted. Now take a look at this phenomenal acting. This guy right here is screaming his heart out, and she just can't take it. So she starts laughing. Oh boy, exposed. Even they know it's a joke. They know this whole thing is a joke, but they're like, listen, the world's buying into it, so we're just gonna keep doing it. And it's working. This guy, right here at the bottom, doesn't even want to show his face because he's probably laughing his ass out. The video on the left is from Africa, where people are actually starving, and this video is from Gaza. This method of getting food gets no attention, and this method of getting food gets the world's attention. Why is the world hypocritical? Let's watch. Why do you have to act demented pretending you have no food? Disgusting. This young boy right here was told to pretend he was freezing, right? And the only challenge is that he stopped acting in the middle of the video. And we saw it. Let's watch.
استنى اسالك بالله ما تغلب تحب الله ورسوله
freezing. Oh my God.
انا اخوكم بني السرطان والله العلي العظيم اقسم
That's
بالله
it?
العلي
We're
العظيم
done?
هذول اطفال يا اخوان
Let's take a look at it again, okay?
استنى اسالك بالله ما تغلب تحب الله ورسوله تغلب يا اخوتي انا اخوكم بني السرطان والله العلي العظيم اقسم
All
بالله
right.
العلي العظيم هذول اطفال يا اخوان
It's pathetic, guys. It's pathetic, and it's working on millions of people. Look at it. If you have to fake something, maybe what the world is claiming isn't true. And children aren't such great actors, so they'll fuck it up for you.
والله العلي العظيم وضعنا المادي تحت الصفر اقسم بالله العظيم
That's it. When are we going to play?
انا لكم متابعه يا اخوتي الله يجبر بخاطركم يا رب والله العظيم تجرون فيني
Now, take a look at this snow blizzard that took place in Gaza, a place that has not seen snow in 30 to 50 years. I don't even know when, but this is Gaza. You know, it's close to Egypt, really close to a desert. You really think it snows? Let's take a look at this AI propaganda.
خذ البطانيات واحدة لكل طفل الحمد لله معنا وإن شاء الله خير فنفسي حبيبتي معنا يا رب.
This exclusive and incredibly real video displays a group of Gazans doing their yearly trip to Mount Everest to stick the Palestinian flag at the top of it as well, claiming it was theirs also. I mean, clearly. Let's take a look at this real video. When did the Gazans become Asian? These people are not Gazans. They're not anything, to be honest. They're fake. They're AI. But of course you'll buy into it. Now take a look at this starving Gazan celebrating the genocide that is over, right? He's got no food, no milk, no water. Look at his belly. Looks hella comfortable because he was never starving. These people were never starved. What are you talking about? Look at this. Now take a look at this video from November 23rd, 2025. It was during the war, in case you don't remember. And this famine survivor just announced that he reopened his electronics store during a genocide. What are you talking about?
لأن الكرام جددنا لكم كمية التابلت الوقتين اللي عملنا اللي هو معاه توابع واللي حطينا معاه في النقلة القديمة وسط الشحن من سريع الطيب سي. طبعا جددنا الكمية زي ما انتم شايفين كمية كثيرة. طبعا البيع إن شاء الله راح يكون جملة مفرق بإذن الله عز وجل. خليكم معنا.
Hold on, so you're telling me that it's possible to sell electronics and tablets while there's a blockade and a genocide and ethnic cleansing? I don't think so. The whole thing is fake. And this one proves it. Take a look at this. November 23rd, 2025. Misa Mobile 1 posted. So don't buy into their BS. It's all fake. What if I told you you could win a fully furnished $1.2 million apartment in the holiest city in the world? Jerusalem. And not just any apartment. I mean, look at this place. This is one of those apartments where you walk outside and just stop for a second. And just to put this in perspective, your chances of winning something like this are a lot higher than winning the lottery. Still a raffle, obviously, but this isn't millions to one odds. What really mattered to me is where the money goes. This raffle supports real causes, including widows and orphans from October 7th. Families whose lives were completely shattered and who are still trying to rebuild. It also supports things like IDF search and rescue, Torahs on bases, schools and ambulances. Real projects that actually help people. You buy a ticket, you're entered. Right now they're doing a special, it's a 2-for-1 deal, so every ticket that you purchase counts as 2 entries. The drawing is done live in Jerusalem. The winners are contacted directly by email and phone, and yes, this can be done with Marcel. If you want to check it out, I'll leave my link below. Using it helps me bring more opportunities like this to you. Things that actually matter, not random promotions. And honestly, just imagine the feeling of saying, you want an apartment in Jerusalem. Link is down below. Now, of course, people will keep claiming starvation, starvation, they have no food. Take a look at this famine survivor.
سببكم كله بسبب خذلانكم وسكوتكم وتآمركم وكما قال أخويا صالح الله يرحمه في يوم من الأيام خذلانكم أصعب من الحرب نفسها حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل
حسبي الله
قال اخونا انس الشريف.
ايش قال أنس؟
اخونا انس الشريف قال نفس الجمله، قال خذلانكم اصعب من الحرب. خذلانكم في جوعنا، في جوع اطفالنا، خذلانكم في
Of course, hunger of your children, because you guys are eating all the food. Look at your friend. He absorbed an entire restaurant into him.
مجاعتنا، خذلانكم في
أنا بدي أحكيها كلمة
أنا بدي
أحكيها كلمة
لازم
بس اسمعني الله بيضيعنا
لا طبعا.
احنا بس امنا في الله وعند الله تلتقي الخصوم.
Now, I don't know if you know this guy. This is the guy who was always doing Allah. He was doing it all the time. Apparently, he's got 2 of the newest iPhones in Gaza, in a place where there was supposed to be a genocide, right? And an ethnic cleansing. 2 iPhones. I don't even have the newest iPhone. Take a look at this. If one isn't enough, oh, I have another one. I have another one. Oh my God, they are killing us. They are butchering us. Give me a freaking break. Look at this. Look at this. Which color should I take? Should I take the orange or should I take the white? Because apparently after 2 years of not working, allegedly, I have no money to buy phones. But he has 2. He has 2 iPhones. Before I'm making this financial sacrifice, I'm sitting for a few days before like, should I do this? Should I not do this? But he got 2. You know, why not? It's the brand new iPhone. Now, I want you to take a look at this incredibly real video of a girl crying for not having food. She's holding her pen like this, right? When the person comes to serve the food, she's supposed to give him the pan, to put the food in the pan. But take a look at what she's doing. Yes. Girl, why are you crying? Put your pan like this so it can contain the food being served to you. But this isn't real. This is fake. This video is AI, in my opinion. I mean, look at her mouth. It doesn't look real at all. Also, why do you have 3 hands? One is here, one is here, and another one is here. Don't fall into their BS. Shukran for what? You cannot eat this. You're moving a millimeter, it's gonna move. Shukran for what? Now, I want you to take a look at this ultra real video from Gaza. You know, trying to display that people are freezing in the cold, people are freezing in the rain. Take a look at this child right here. For some reason, a finger is growing out of his hand as he's speaking. What in the world? Take a look at this. Focus on the child. Focus on the child. What in the world is this? And look at his other arm. It's not even there. What is this? And of course, the Palestinian flag connected all the time, right? Attached to nothing. Now, this video has nothing to do with Hollywood, but take a look at this. This Arab Egyptian woman is offering to sell this black kid for 1 Egyptian pound. This chocolate, that's what she's calling him. Let's watch. You want me to sell you for 1 pound? Yes? He's like, woman, put me down. What are you doing? You're not my mother. Oh, the baby's crying. Of course. Of course. He was able to sense your racism. Now, here's our last video for today. Take a look at this beautiful production that would not even shame the Hollywood studios in LA. Take a look at this.
عايز رفع يا جيمي اول ما اقول اكشن معاك ثانيتين ثلاثه ورفع سريعه. تمام. يلا بسم الله and اكشن. حلو يلا يلا نبدا.
Bravo. And scene. Beautiful. Beautiful. Guys, stop buying into the BS coming out of Gaza. They will put out whatever they have to put out to get you on their side. But they're lying to you like crazy. And if you want to see more footage just like this, please visit Gazawood on Instagram and it will show you everything you need to see. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
If you'd like to watch more of my stuff, please check out my channel down below. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification button so you can be notified every time I upload new content. If you'd like to support me and the channel financially, you can do that using Buy Me Coffee or Patreon down in the links below. Also, we now have a Discord that you can join down in the link below. And now you can become a YouTube member and enjoy specific YouTube perks. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coleman. My guest today is Jennifer Doleac. Jennifer is an economist whose research focuses on crime and criminal justice policy. Her new book is called The Science of Second Chances, A Revolution in Criminal Justice. In this episode, we talk about why economists tend to produce the best research about crime. We talk about whether people commit crime because of human nature or because of social and economic causes. We talk about Michelle Alexander's famous book, The New Jim Crow, and what it gets wrong. We talk about why hiring more policemen is a much better way to reduce crime than doling out longer prison sentences. We talk about why Ban the Box doesn't work, and much more. So without further ado, Jennifer Doleac. Okay, Jennifer Doleac, thanks so much for coming on my show.
Thank you so much for having me.
As I was just telling you before we started, I've been following your work for a very long time. You are an economist who studies crime, and a lot of people might wonder, okay, why would an economist study crime? Aren't economists people who study the stock market and GDP and economic growth? So first of all, why would an economist study crime, and what special tools do you bring to the study of crime as an economist that other people who study crime don't bring?
Yeah. So economists, it turns out, study lots and lots of things that the general public don't realize we're interested in. Everything from education to healthcare to crime and criminal justice policy, all the way to monetary policy and GDP, which I think are the traditional econ ideas that people know of. I would put what the economics lens brings to this conversation into three buckets. So one is that economists love to think about incentives and how people respond to incentives. And that is really relevant throughout the criminal justice system. So judges are responding to incentives, police officers, prosecutors, potential criminals, victims, witnesses, everyone in the choices that they're making and in their day-to-day behavior, they're responding to incentives. And the theoretical lens that economists bring to the problem of how to change behavior is, if we can figure out what incentives people are responding to, we can figure out how to change those incentives so that we change the behavior. So that's bucket one. The second is that economists are more obsessed than most social scientists with distinguishing correlation from causation. So we think a lot about either running randomized trials or finding natural experiments out in the real world that give us a good control group that tell us what would have happened without some policy or program that we want to evaluate. And so if you want to know if a program or policy works, a good place to start is talking to an economist. And there's a lot of that work that needs to be done in this space. And then the third bucket is, since we're so good at measuring what the causal effect of a policy or program is, we are very helpful in crunching the numbers to do cost benefit analyses. So we love nothing more than talking with policymakers about how to allocate their scarce resources. That's really what the study of economics is about. And so we can take all of the studies that we're doing and try to help them figure out how to get the biggest bang for their buck.
Okay, so I'm going to start out with some big picture questions, and then we're going to get into most of the topics you deal with in the book, the natural experiments, your prescriptions for dealing with crime in a smart way. But big picture, one of the most important questions that shapes people's outlook on crime in general and has a political dimension in that conservatives and liberals are quite often split on this question, have different instincts, is the so-called root causes theory of crime, namely the idea that basically crime is something that has social causes, that people generally don't commit crime because of human nature, but because of something that in principle could be changed about society, like their upbringing. They had a tough upbringing in a bad neighborhood, or they're poor, and so forth, as opposed to the view that what we call crime is just a behavior that for some portion of the population inheres in their nature. It doesn't mean it's the only thing they want to do all day, but like humans are aggressive, so some people are going to assault regardless of what society does. How do you think about the question of why human beings commit crime at the most abstract level?
I think it's got to be both. Um, I mean, it's surely a combination of our genes and who we are as people, and then how society is interacting with that. So I would not put myself firmly in one camp or the other. Honestly, I don't spend a ton of time thinking about the root causes of crime. I spend much more time thinking about like what's the impact of an intervention on someone's behavior going forward. I think there are a lot of scenarios where we would love to know how we got to where we are, but that's actually not that necessary for figuring out how to go from A to B and how to change course. So yeah, so I'm not going to plant a flag on either camp there.
You make a good point, because later I'm going to ask you to explain how, for instance, the notion of having a long time horizon versus having a short time horizon is like a critical key inflection point for what criminal justice policies actually work. And that's a question that isn't really answered by your position. It doesn't fall out of your philosophy on root causes. And there's a lot of sub questions that are really where, when we're deciding to pull the lever on this policy or that policy, knowing what you think about the root causes theory is not really going to answer that question for you, and for most, if not all, the questions you're addressing in your book. So I think it is possible to focus too much on those big philosophical questions at the expense of the real questions that we can actually that actually have consequences.
I think just to riff on that a little bit, I think a lot of these issues of like, what do you think about the root causes of crime, or what's the theoretical lens you bring to different issues? Those are all really helpful for generating hypotheses about what we can do to change our outcomes, right? So we've got some trajectory, we have some status quo, we want to know how to get somewhere better. And all of those ideas and conversations are hypothesis generating. But I'm in the business of hypothesis testing. And so really, ultimately, and we do this now a lot at Arnold Ventures, where I work now, we're funding lots of studies on that are testing lots of things out in the real world. And we try to be really agnostic about what we think might work. So if someone has an idea, even if I'm really skeptical that it's going to work, if they think it'll work, through their theoretical lens or their life experience or whatever, who am I to say they're wrong? Let's take it to the data and let's just go test it out in the real world. So we do need just lots and lots of ideas swirling about what could be effective, but there's no way we're going to know. We're not going to solve all those problems with, we're not going to answer those questions with those root cause conversations.
Okay, one more big picture question about how criminal justice is discussed in America, in particular in elite spaces, in colleges, at think tanks, and so forth. The most popular framework has been mass incarceration. This is the phenomenon that America, compared to the countries we compare ourselves to, like Canada and the United Kingdom and Western Europe, Australia, East Asian countries, South Korea, Japan, we incarcerate a far higher proportion of our population than these countries do. Now, that's a fact. Nobody disputes that. But to frame that as mass incarceration, I've always felt there was I disagree in the point of emphasis, which is to say, there are countries in the world that have a lot of crime, and there are countries in the world that have a lot of state capacity to imprison, and they usually aren't the same countries, right? So like Brazil has a ton of crime, Mexico has a ton of crime, but they don't really have the state capacity or the political ability at the moment to actually put most criminals in prison. And then there's countries that have the reverse phenomenon. They really don't have that much crime to begin with. Japan, for instance. Japan just has very little crime, but if they did have crime, you know they would be able to put, if they wanted, every criminal in prison. They have great state capacity. America's in one of the unique situations in the world in that we have a pretty effective government in terms of fighting crime. We have good state capacity. We have courts. We have police officers. It's not super corrupt. But we also have a lot of crime. And so it seems to me the comparison to other countries which don't take that account, the unique situation of America.
Is this good? Can I talk? Oh, it is working. Now is it working? Which? It is working now, right? Okay, finally it's working.
Fundamentally frame the problem in a way that's confused. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of differences between the United States and
it's good, guys.
other countries, just in general. Like, pick your favorite country. I am generally reluctant to make comparisons.
Finally 1v1. I haven't had a 1v1 in a long time.
The baselines can
Oh, flat 3, let me
populations and social norms, cultural
I had a
norms
chance
different.
before this game.
And so, the idea that we could just take another country's policies and implement them in the US and get the exact same outcome is generally wishful thinking is in my mind, because there's so much other stuff going on. Now again, what other countries are doing and seem to be finding benefits from can generate some hypotheses about what we want to try in the US, but I want to test whatever it is we're doing. And a great example here is Norwegian style or Scandinavian style prison units, emphasizing more rehabilitation and freedom and responsibility. You can walk around, you can commute during the day, go to work, and you have to come back and have more collegial interactions with the guards. They're not just
That's a prison that is.
That's totally seems to work really well in a way. Maybe it would work in the US, but there are a lot of reasons it might not work in the US. Maybe the US were just more violent than in other countries. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to claim to know that. But we now have a scenario where enough people are interested in figuring out a better way to do things, really forced by workforce shortages in crisis facilities across the United States. That we are doing randomized trials of these Scandinavian prison units in a bunch of states. Not just blue states, we've got South Carolina in there, Missouri, there's sort of a good assortment of states that are interested in trying and
this guy's good.
get us to a different equilibrium. And why not try what Mo is trying? Yeah, I think in general there are a lot of differences across countries, and I think the evidence just within the United States would suggest that we are overusing incarceration on the margin. Sentences are too long from a public safety perspective. We're incarcerating too many people, again, from a public safety perspective. But I would base that on studies from within the United States, not
Oh, nice. I hit it so fast that he couldn't even, he like self-scored.
It goes up and up and up and up for 3 decades, peaks in the early 90s, and then goes down and down and down and down pretty much until 2020. This is one of the greatest massive trends in American history, one of the most important trends of the past 100 years. And I've never gotten a clear answer from the people who study it why it happened. Tell me why this happened.
Yeah. Well, it's good that no one you talk to is giving you a clear answer, because if they did, they would be lying or BSing you. I think the reality is we probably will never know. It's probably a whole bunch of stuff that changed. During the early to mid-90s, people were worried about crime, so we hired more police, we built more prisons, so there's some stuff we intentionally did to fight crime that surely had some impact. There's also a whole bunch of stuff going on in the background that had been going on over previous generations, in previous decades, that could have an impact on who's committing crime today. One is that we removed lead from gasoline. Again, I don't know if we'll ever fully nail down that is one of the major drivers of this, but we have lots of other evidence now that lead exposure in young childhood leads to violence behavior and violent arrest in teen and young adults. So it's totally possible that that was a contributor. We also have the war on poverty that was going on in the 60s, and that, by the time we have the next generation of kids in the early 1990s, that might change, right? The kids that were affected there are doing better than previous generations had. And so that could have had dividends. So I think the reality is there's just a bunch of stuff going on. I compare it often to,
How is this guy doing this? Okay, whatever.
What's driving crime?
Let's start at one.
To questions about what's driving the stock market day to day.
Sex
It's a whole bunch of stuff. But
I don't know what that is.
just like I can tell you how to make a business profitable, if I can't explain what's going on in the stock market, I can tell you how to intervene to make communities safer, even if I can't tell you exactly why crimes are what they are, or why they're going up or down.
Okay. So it seems to me one of the most counterintuitive, interesting discoveries in the field of criminology. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think economists, not just you, but others have had a hand in discovering this and popularizing this, is that when criminals, when people who commit crimes are considering how to behave, they have a much shorter time horizon than the average person does, which means they're not thinking about what could happen to them in 5 or 10 years. They're thinking very short term. And so it's not that they're irrational. They're rational, but just over a very short time horizon. Why is this such an important observation when it comes to criminal justice policy?
Yeah. So, we all discount the future in con terms. Discount the future to some extent. The future is more uncertain than today is. And so we all care a little bit less about our future happiness than present happiness. But it varies across people how much you discount the future. So economists call this your discount rate, right? How much you discount the future is sort of a fundamental thing about you that determines a lot of decisions that you make. How much you study, how much you how much effort you put into your entry level job, whatever. Turns out it also really affects how you respond to criminal justice policies. So if someone is not thinking past today, or maybe next week, if we're lucky, then trying to reduce crime, or trying to deter crime in particular, by adding years to already long sentences. So if the sentence for a robbery is 2 years, now we're going to make it 5 or 10 years. that's not going to register. That's not going to affect your behavior today if you're not thinking past next week, right? So what does matter is basically any consequence during the time horizon that you're paying attention to. And so the swiftness and certainty of punishment, knowing that with a very high probability you're going to be arrested and put in jail for whatever it is for robbing a convenience store, that's what deters crime. It's not ramping up the potential sentence that you might receive if you get unlucky and are caught. And so what we want to do is, in that case, is shift our emphasis from making punishment more severe or sentence longer to increasing the probability you get caught quickly, which really is a big shift from how we're doing in the United States today. Right now, and this is partly just based on what state legislators really have control over. Right, state lawmakers are worried about crime, they can, with the stroke of a pen, change what the sentences are for different offenses, right? They can change the sentencing guidelines. It's much harder to think of a policy and implement
mayoral
election probability of getting caught. That's something that, it's really
it sounds bad. Some mayoral. What is that?
It's just harder to directly control. But it's really important to figure that out because we're basically again, from a public safety perspective, what we want to do is reduce crime. We're wasting a lot of money on these really long sentences that we should be spending on improving investigations and getting our clearance rates up.
In your book, you write, a simple saliva swab deters crime in a way that long prison sentences do not. Explain.
So one of the first studies I did as an academic was looking at the impacts of DNA databases in the United States. So the U.S. and many other countries around the world now have law enforcement DNA databases that contain DNA profiles from people who have been convicted or arrested of certain offenses, as well as DNA profiles from crime scenes from crimes that aren't solved yet. And it basically just looks for matches between these two things. And a lot of people freak out when they hear about DNA databases. They think we're just uploading stuff to 23andMe, it's whole genome. That's not what it is. It's really just stringing a number. It's kind of just, you could think of it as better fingerprints. And this being in the database then means that you're more likely to be caught if you reoffend. And so because it enables law enforcement across the country to be constantly comparing new crimes against DNA profile, it means that they'll identify you as a suspect in a lot more cases than they might have otherwise if you were the actual perpetrator. And so this is exactly the sort of tool that makes that shift I was talking about. It doesn't do anything to what potential sentence you might receive, what the punishment is for committing robbery, say, but it increases the likelihood that you're caught if you do commit robbery. And so then the question is, okay, this is a hypothesis, right? What's the real world impact of this? And it turns out we can use the way that these databases are implemented and expanded over time as natural experiments where we can compare people who committed the exact same crime, but one committed it just before the database was expanded, and the other one committed the same crime just after the database was expanded.
Bro, it's so annoying. We're not doing that.
So we can follow two people over time and say what happens to their behavior.
It's really hard to beat cases in
DNA database. And so it's much more likely to get caught if they reoffend. Their recidivism drops dramatically. So I have a study in using Danish data, Denmark has amazing data, so we're able to get much better information about what everybody's doing. And we're seeing drops in recidivism of over 40% for this group. And so that's just, it's just a huge impact on behavior when you basically tell people you're now much more likely to get caught if you reoffend. That's the incentive a lot of people need, especially first-time defendants or people who are early in their criminal careers. That's the incentive they really need to like.
Oh my, it's so annoying. I can't emphasize how annoying it is. We're always getting super close, but we never get it, bro.
Move, then makes the sentence longer.
Yeah, it occurs to me a few ways of understanding this psychological difference between most criminals and most non-criminals is like you imagine gamblers, right? Gambling is enormously addictive. Lots of people do it. Lots of people lose a lot because they do it. If it's because like you could lose your house, right? If you go on a gambling spree, you could also win hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if you were just like certain that you were going to lose a very small amount, that same person probably wouldn't gamble. Right. So even though the penalty, if the penalty was only $1, I know I'm going to lose $1 playing poker. That's the game I'm playing. With 100% certainty, that person wouldn't gamble.
Bro,
They
this
will
is
gamble
so annoying.
if there's a 10% chance they'll lose their entire house. Right? And so there is a certain psychology which is insensitive to massive penalties as long as they're lower probability and sort of abstract or far in the future. And then the second touch point that occurs,
Bro, and the one goal was scored because of
crime. I guess if you're lucky enough
whatever.
to live on the streets, you don't live in
That's super annoying.
city, is through television and movies. And the type of crime that
Oh, it's Splat 3, that's
in
all that.
movies is like The Wire, The Sopranos, or Ozark, or Breaking Bad. It's like these criminals that are extremely deliberate, not impulsive at all, have very long time horizons. And in fact, if you're in the New Jersey Italian mob that's portrayed in The Sopranos, a short prison sentence is actually the cost of doing business for you. And because you're looking at the longer time horizon, the money you're going to make over the next 30 years, as long as you keep your mouth shut and do your 8-month stint. And so, if that's the portrait of the criminal underworld that you have in your mind, it's going to misfire pretty spectacularly when you try to apply it to the real world, where most criminals are doing something really impulsive that they think they can get away with.
Totally. There's actually a recent paper that came out looking at the impacts of longer sentences for white-collar criminals, and they find that they're very effective deterrents. And so it's really is these like two sets of potential offenders, the super hyper-rational ones who are committing, financial crimes that they've calculated out. They are forward-looking, often, or at least much more forward-looking than your typical street offender, I guess. But yeah, there's just a really large share of people who are committing violent crimes, property crimes, burglary, theft, those sorts of offenses, who either just naturally are just more impulsive than your average person, or they're struggling with addiction or mental health issue that's just leading them more in that direction. So they just don't have that same
What is that? That was the weirdest.
So it's smart to adapt policies depending on whose behavior we're trying to change.
Okay, about 10 years ago when I was in college, I was reading all these articles about Ban the Box. And Ban the Box was all the rage. And what Ban the Box was, if you had a criminal record, you're out of prison now, you're looking for a job. There's a box on the job application which says, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And we've all checked these boxes on various forms, like visas quite often in other countries require you to check that box. And the criminal justice reform movement on the left at the time was very focused on getting rid of these boxes. You shouldn't have to tell your employer, let's say, that you have a criminal record. And then I read your, I don't know if it was an article or if it was a paper, and you can explain it, saying actually this hurts the very people that you're trying to help. How is that possible? How can it be possible that getting rid of the requirement to tell your employer that you've been convicted actually harms the people it was intended to help?
Yeah. This is a classic case of unintended consequences, right? So as you said, this policy is aiming to help people with criminal records find jobs. We know we have lots of evidence that employers are reluctant to hire people with criminal records. And so one potential solution to that is to just tell them they can't ask if you have a criminal record, at least not until late in the hiring process. So you do a background check at the very end, but in the meantime, that person stops them their foot in the door, they get interviewed, they have a chance to build some rapport with you, get to know them in person, and then when you find out the criminal record, you don't care as much, right? That's the theory.
Committed crimes.
The potential problem is that if employers are worried about the criminal record for some reason, and we're not we're not interrogating in any way why they're worried. We're just saying we'll all accept employers are reluctant to hire someone with criminal records. They're worried about that record for some reason. We're not changing any of the incentives that they're facing here. We're not
How did they
changing
just
that
get the
underlying concern. We're just telling them they can't ask. Then what I, as an economist, would expect is that they would take the remaining information they can see and try to guess who's likely to have a criminal record. And in the United States, because of big racial disparities,
sure I actually
in the
kind of
justice
want
system,
No, I have a full piece.
young black men are more likely to have a recent conviction that might worry an employer than other groups are. And so an employer who's trying to avoid wasting their time interviewing someone who they're not going to hire on the back end might then just be much less likely to interview young black men, especially those with more limited education. And so, that's the theory. That was my theory as an economist, based on everything I knew and the way I thought about the world. But we wanted to see how it would play out in practice. And so I have a paper with Ben Hansen at the University of Oregon looking at the staggered rollout of ban-the-box policies across the country, across counties and states. And we're able to look at what happens to actual employment across different race and age groups. And we find that employment fell by about 5% for young black men with less education. Exactly the group that we would have hoped that ban-the-box would help if it were helpful. Now, at the same time, there was a really awesome
Well, I want to see
experiment run by Innocent Star where they sent out job
How could I help with
job
that?
applicants randomizing
I really don't know how to
randomizing whether the person had a criminal record before and after ban-the-box went into effect in New Jersey and New York City. And they found, along the same lines, that when ban-the-box went into effect, what had been no racial gap in callbacks widened to a substantial racial gap, which implied that, so basically, employers did discriminate based on the criminal record, but treated white and black applicants the same if they had a record or didn't have a record. And then after ban-the-box went into effect, employers seemed to be basically assuming that the black applicants were likely to have a criminal record, and they called them back at much lower rate than the white applicants. And so these two papers side by side painted a really compelling picture that this policy was really
I don't know, I kind of want to
unintended
stop.
consequences for a group that's really
See you guys.
vulnerable in the
But it's working, right? Like